So we're going to open it up to questions and thoughts, and while people find their way to microphones or steel themselves to ask a question, let me just ask you guys generally, how much the intellectual property regime matters? To what extent, as soon as you say, Eureka, I have innovated, the next step is, I need to call a lawyer and secure my patent rights? I don't know. How much, is it fair to ask you, Chris, or can you just send an email to the legal team and never think about it again?
So yeah, we do that. It's, hey, thought of this great idea, pop it off, and magic happens somewhere. And we talk to a lawyer at some point in the future.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That sounds very painless.
It's pretty darn good.
Yes, like emailing the dentist.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going to happen in the future as we grow bigger. We'll obviously have to think about these things differently. But as a small company, I think it's been, we've been very open about, and Google too is very open about the tools and the software that they produce. They give it out. They make almost a lot of the things open source, Android included. Right?
Yes.
So we're very much in the same mindset. We built this company on a lot of open tools and a lot of open software. If it hadn't been for something like Google Docs, where they're offered this service up, it would have been harder for us to get email and document management and all this
so
stuff.
Do you even
if it hadn't been for something like Scala and MongoDB, which are all are all open and that we can contribute to, that we can, as we build upon those tools, that we can also contribute to and make those tools and improve them, we wouldn't be where we are, right? So we build upon open things, so we want to continue opening up innovation for other people.
So does that mean you are characterologically inclined against even having a patent portfolio?
I think it's interesting. The way I think about patents is more as a publishing, as a method of publishing, right? So if you're in academia, you write a paper, but if you're not, you maybe go to the USPTO and you get your name on something, and now you have something to show off. And that's as far as I really like patents, or really kind of want to see patents, right? I don't really like the idea that someone else thought of something, they didn't really actually go do it, and here are 60 people that are working very hard, night and day to make this self-driving car, and someone comes in and says, oh yeah, in 1980 I filed this patent that it says cars are auto-drive. Yeah. And now this person that didn't do anything gets credit, gets the money, gets the royalties, and it's just frustrating because you have a great team.
But so I think I hear you saying you just don't want to play that game, either offense or defense.
I think so. I think what we want to, the stance we take is we don't really worry about patents. We don't worry about any of this, to preserve the ideas that we have.
Yes.
We just innovate very quickly and get into the market very quickly, and we let the users and the people decide.
Yes. I think that's absolutely right. I think if you're sitting there relying on IP protection to sort of as your route to success, you're going to fail. As Naveen said, it's amazing how many different people have probably thought of a lot of the very similar ideas. The people who've succeeded, the people who've just got on and executed really quickly. And I think one of the business mantras we try and use at Betfair is find reasons to say yes to doing things, not reasons to say no to doing them. And actually, I think in many ways you can turn patents around to being reasons to say no. And so I think we just want to say, look, you've got a great idea, go out and capitalize on it, but do it quickly because technology is shortening the business cycle rapidly.
And in that sense, on quick capitalization, do you see innovation as there's this flash of insight, you get something going, you establish yourself as a leader in the market, and then just lock that in, or is it some kind of continuous process?
I think it's a completely continuous process, and I think, again, that's what we're seeing is that the key here is to iterate, is to put ideas out there, listen to real-time feedback. We heard a lot about this yesterday. We have the tools today to get feedback in real time, and I think you're on very dangerous ground if you sit there and ignore the numbers that come back to you and think, well, it wasn't 100% what I thought it was going to be. The really great companies are the ones that sit there and say, it wasn't 100% what I thought it was going to be. It's 80%, but I'm going to quickly realign myself. And you're always sort of sitting there following that feedback.
And do you set up incentives within the company for people to be thinking outside the box? Or is it just expected as a day-to-day?
We try, but I think the hardest thing is making sure that people don't have a fear of failure, because I think with innovation you're going to fail plenty of times, and in fact you should fail, because actually you need to work out where the boundary is. You're going to learn a lot more from when you get things wrong.
And do you have proud failures you could share?
We've got loads of products that we've released that haven't done as well as we'd hoped they have, and I think the key there, as I say, is to recognize that, believe it. Some of the stuff we launched 10 years ago, we just quietly sort of consigned to the bin because your customers are telling you something. We struggle slightly. Obviously, ours is slightly different because we're in a very regulated environment. And so sometimes, unfortunately, the regulator finds a reason to say no, and we have to sort of convince them. They're not usually the most innovative bunch of people out there. And we also deal with a lot of money. We
Right.
sit on a
We
huge
call
amount
that
of
understatement.
yeah, I'm English. We sit there on a huge amount of customers' money, and so you have to sort of find a fine line between being sort of cavalier in your innovation and what you're trying to do, and then suddenly somebody saying, "Hold on, net, I've got."
And I guess Betfair has been known as one that has not wanted to innovate around the legal or regulatory lines.
Correct.
For example, you've said you haven't had a single American using Betfair that you know of.
Correct. I mean, as I say, we're in a regulated environment. We took a very what we think was conservative view of the law. We don't have grey when it comes to legal innovation. It's black or white, and if it's grey, it's black.
Yeah.
And the US will open up. I mean, prohibition won't work. We believe that firmly. We're seeing that now, but we'd rather therefore be positioned to receive it rather than sort of pushing that kind of boundary.
The firm that's not under indictment is the one that can succeed.
I don't look good in orange. I apologize to the gentleman over there.
Let's open it up to questions, and I'd like to give the first one, if he doesn't mind, to Yuri. Yuri, in evaluating the ventures we've just seen described here in triplicate, I don't know, what questions come to mind for you? What would you be asking if you were about to potentially commit a good chunk of capital to any of these ventures?
Asking one of.
Yes.
I'll probably ask Naveen. How do you think your social graph is different from Facebook social graph?
So the way we've thought about, one of the ways we thought about Foursquare as an idea is that, and I've recently kind of come across in describing it, we're using this phrase, is that we're trying to use the internet to get people off the internet. So what that means is that we're trying to build software, and we're trying to build great tools, and we're trying to improve upon these, make it faster, make it more efficient, tell you exactly the right thing at the right time, and lead you to the right experience. And we want to do that so that you take your phone out, or your phone buzzes, and it tells you, go into this place because 3 of your friends are here, and this is something you've been wanting to try. It's a restaurant you've been wanting to try. And then you put your phone away, and you actually do something in real life. So that's kind of very core to the nature of the service. So with that being said, what we want to do with the way we see the social graph is that your social graph is really people that you would want to hang out with and you want to see in real life. They're almost like your real life friends. They're not people that you may have just had an email conversation with or something.
Which means that if you're using Foursquare, you shouldn't engage in a lot of courtey friending with people you don't know very well.
Yeah,
because then you might be eating dinner with them.
Or having a cup of tea or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot of users see it that way, and when we find that actively reflected in the social graph, where people really respect how to do the friendship, they keep their graphs very kind of curated, and use it to the best extent that they can.
And is the value, this is maybe a question behind Yuri's question, the value in what you can deliver to those users, wow, a chance to eat at a restaurant with a good friend of a friend
Yep.
that I wouldn't have known otherwise was there?
Yep.
Or is it, say, in the data that you're able to extract? The
It's
way that it's such a data-rich environment in the self-driving cars?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of that real-time value of, oh, my friends are actually here, or I take out my phone on a Saturday, early Saturday evening, and I say, what should I do tonight? Should I go to dinner with? There are 3 friends in my neighborhood that are having dinner. Should I join them? They're friends from out of town. Should I go see them? So it gives you this kind of real-time, this passive awareness of what's going on in the world around you, in your neighborhood, and all around the world. Who's coming into town? Who's moving around? But the other thing that we have now is we have more than 500 million data points, unique data points about check-ins about where people have been checking in all around the world, a check-in from almost every single country. And what that enables is that we can take all that data and we can extract a lot more value and meaning from it. And that kind of completes the circle of what the story of Foursquare that we've been telling, which is you check in, you check in to earn all sorts of rewards, whether they be physical rewards like discounts and a free drink at the bar, or virtual rewards like the idea of points in games that you briefly touched upon, right? The points that don't mean anything, but people do it just because it encourages.
And Foursquare, you can earn a mayorship by checking in enough.
Yeah, I mean, all these virtual.
Can you tell if people are really competing for that?
People love the game-like nature of Foursquare. So Foursquare, at the very core of it, is a utility that helps you, kind of see this awareness of what's going on around you, whether that be about your friends or other people, or about recommendations and tips. So in order to drive a little bit more active usage, in order to drive a little bit more excitement about the product, we built this idea of, we built game mechanics over the whole system. And the idea behind the game is that by giving you a virtual reward of some sort, by putting you on a leaderboard and saying, you've only gone out 10 times in the last week, but your friends have gone out 20 more times than you have, can we actually get you to use the service more? So that's really the goal behind the game mechanics. So
and do you suppose one could earn some money by just letting people buy a level up? Could I just buy a mayorship?
At the moment, we don't want to do anything like that. I don't think that's exciting in itself. The way
in that sense, it's not like the real world.
Right. Sorry. I mean, what we want to do is use the game-like idea just to encourage usage, just to encourage a little bit more kind of, just to keep you coming back to the product in a different way, to engage with it in a different way.
I remember when it was a friend, and I insist it was just a friend, tried to check into a place that she was nowhere near. And the first time the system caught her and said, you're not really near here, so this isn't going to count towards your mayorship.
Right.
And she was extremely disappointed.
And as with any game, people try to cheat. And we say this all the time. You even look at games from a long time ago, even before the digital world. So even in a game like let's say football or something like that, people are trying to cheat. People cheat all the time, right? It doesn't matter what the game is. So you just have to put in guidelines and rules in place. And as the game improves, the mechanics and the rules behind it also have to improve.
You're even going to say something more?
No.
Oh, you looked like you were going to say something. Shall we open it up? There are questions, reactions? Here's a hand in the back here. Wait for a microphone to...
Do you hear me? I can talk. You hear me?
I can hear you very well, but I think this might be saved for posterity, and it's all about the data. So we're just going to pass a microphone back to you.
Thank you.
Feel free to tell us who you are.
Yeah, my name is Vito. I'm an Italian entrepreneur. And I have a question for Naveen and Edward, because you are entrepreneurs yourself, and when you start a company, innovation is really driven by the founders. They're the idea, they are the heroes in the beginning, and then as the business grows, I think you have been there. We are in this process now. You have the problem of shifting innovation to your team and to other people, and you don't have you must create that. Otherwise, you are the single innovation point. So I wanted to have your perspective on where you are in this regard. How much have you delegated innovation to your people to make it sustainable in the future? Not to be focused on yourselves. Both of you. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that can be answered in two parts. The second part is that we don't know. We're still 2 years ago we were 2 people, me and Dennis, and a year ago we were about 16 people, 17, and now we're 60. So we're still very small as a company, the way I think about it. We're still a baby, as I like to say. And the second thing is that we've been very lucky in that we've been able to hire a great team. And it all goes back to the team, because the team is what is responsible for carrying your vision and your idea and kind of get you excited about it. So early on, the way we did hiring was in the first round of people that we brought on were just friends and friends of friends. People that we hung out with, people that shared our vision, that shared our idea, that were passionate or equally passionate about what we wanted to do. They're all people from New York City, from our circle, from our social circle. So we brought them on, and then they in turn went out and got their friends very excited about the idea.
That's kind of your medium is your message. It's a Foursquare model of hiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little of how the system itself works. A lot of I don't want to say the execution, like a lot of the energy and excitement around Foursquare not just is driven by us, but has been driven by the users. And that's been very special, and we've been really fortunate to have that, and we've really tapped into that. So,
and that's, again, thanks to the open API. So users are...
not just the open API. I think just the idea of sharing location, the idea that we can use the internet or tools like this to get people off the internet, the idea of the game mechanics that you see in the system have gotten people excited, have gotten people talking about this. And I think you saw this with Twitter and Facebook and a lot of other services. And that's lent itself naturally to the culture and to the way people kind of describe the service and the way it spreads. And that, in fact, has gone out to infect future employees, so that when they come on board, they're actually really excited and passionate about the idea. I think Google probably works the same way. You want to go work at Google because there are a lot of other really smart guys there that share your vision of, what can we do with all this great data? So we see a lot of the same stuff with Foursquare.
And I think I'd say similar. I mean, undeniably, it gets harder to keep innovation going as you get bigger. I think one of the things that we've managed to do is to embrace our customers. I mean, again, any liquidity-based system where the more people there are, the better it is. Everyone has an incentive to try and bring more people in. And we've got lots of people out there now developing applications, I say, that sort of plug into Betfair. So in some cases, if we see a really good application, we'll go and try and hire that person who built it. sometimes they say the last thing I want to do is come and work for you. I want to carry and actually just do it independently, and that's fine. We'll sort of let them do that. But the other thing I think is when you're developing your product cycle, a little and often is the way to do it, so that you've got time to put it out there, you've got time to get the feedback, and you must make sure you allow yourself time to sort of adjust it and iterate it. And I think that's the big difference today from when it was sort of 10 or 11 years ago for us, that there's just instant feedback from a whole host of different channels.
And maybe one of the premises of Vito's question was that innovation is something that maybe can be self-consciously brought into the enterprise, that you're asking at any moment, who's doing the innovation here? Do we have an innovative idea? Can it be that explicit, or do you tend to just expect it to be part of the fabric of what you're doing? Might there be an opportunity to do a retreat so that you're seeing forest instead of trees each day, or is it more of a day-to-day thing?
Again, I think it's that there are cultures, so it's making sure that if people try something and it seems like it's a silly idea, you say, well, let's try it and see what happens. And
yes.
We've all sat there and tried something that's daft, and it's proven to be fantastic. So I think as the organization gets larger, I think sitting there and allowing a sort of ring fence, allowing people to have that startup mentality, allowing them to think that they're actually in a team of 2, 5, 10, 20 people, rather than as we are now, 2,000 people, you sort of go back to that sort of those roots. And Naveen's said he was 20 people a year ago, he's 60 now. That's still really nice and manageable, and you want to try and hold on to that for as long as you can.
Yeah. To add to that, I think a few other things that we do is it doesn't tend to be top down. So your culture has to spread. Everyone has to be responsible. Everyone has to kind of carry that message. So very much like with our users, where every user is empowered to go and add locations. If you don't see something in the middle of your town, you go add it. And if another user notices that an address is wrong, they go and fix it. So in a very similar way, all of our employees have a lot of transparency into what we do. You can join any mailing list you want to in the company. You can speak up any point you want to. Yes. When we have team meetings, anyone's welcome to stand up and shout out an idea. So it's kind of inherent. It's built into who you are, and we all welcome that.
And Chris, Naveen, and Edward, and to some extent Yuri, have talked about having innovation even available among the users and consumers themselves. For your project, to what extent do you see this as a kind of wholesale kit? Are these self-driving cars able to be hackable by anybody with the kind of temerity to put a screwdriver to them? Or is it supposed to be a sealed box, warranty void if seal is broken kind of thing?
I think that's a really tricky question to answer. I think that in the automotive industry right now, there's a lot of concern. The reason why product cycles are very long in the automotive industry is because of the depth of regulation in that space.
And the stakes, should there be an accident.
And the stakes, should there be an accident.
Right.
And we coming from a software company are very used to much higher frequency innovation and getting that onto the vehicle.
Failures are more unambiguously celebrated.
Right. Something goes wrong, you fix it, and then you launch it again.
Right.
And so it's a really delicate line. How do you bring the rate of innovation from the software industry into the automotive industry without being cavalier? I think somebody used that word earlier. When it comes to regulation and keeping the people safe. Where I think there will be lots of room for innovation, eventually down the road when this is commercialized, is the car will become a really interesting platform, right? So today there's a lot of constraints on what you can do with it because the person's engaged with the driving task. As soon as you remove the person from the immediate moment-to-moment engagement,
they can be watching ads.
They can be yes,
or anything.
But they can be doing whatever they want with their time. They have the freedom to use that time however they see fit, and they'll be safer and they'll enjoy their time in the car more.
Which actually means radio is doomed, because now they can be doing something more than just listening to radio.
Self-driving car killed the radio star.
Self-driving car killed the radio star.
Yes.
Yes. One more question? A guy scratching his head. That was a false alarm.
Approximate question.
Right here. Feel free to tell us who you are.
I'm Alan A. Segura, and this question is for Yuri. I think you've innovated dramatically on the standard Silicon Valley venture capital market and how those funds are allocated. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you see the future of VC investing given your model?
Well, I can tell you, where we've been coming from, and then, I'm not sure whether it leads, but we basically came from two premises. One is that private company is not worse than a public company, because I think there was maybe a notion that you just have to be public no matter what, and then you're just a better company. And the second was that if you cash out, founders and employees, it basically destroys incentives, which we think is maybe the opposite, that it actually encourages risk-taking in addition to what people would otherwise do if they have 99% of their net worth in one place. So we think that those were kind of the major themes that we think was important for what we were doing. But I'm not sure that this is not something new or something that was necessarily discovered. But we were just sticking with this ideas for the last 2 years.
Yes. Well, if one thing has emerged from this, it is again the reinforcement that it is all about people. And we have had 4 great people sharing some of their experiences with us, and I hope in the informal times that will follow as well. Please join me in thanking Chris, Naveen, Edward, and Yuri.